Welcome back. Even when we have a good salutary effort from and gesture from the both sides of the divide, still we have hardliners, and bugbears and fears really come to the fore, as Taifa Leo is putting it, that wanaohofia handshake waogopa ushirikiano wa kikazi baina ya Ruto na Raila huenda ukazima nyota zao za kisiasa. And these are some of the faces here that it says Gachagua ana mashaka kuhusu kujirudia kwa masaibu yaliyompata Ruto chini ya Uhuru baada ya mapatano ya 2018, huku waasi wa ODM Nyanza kama vile Kidero na Walo wakiogopa kupoteza usemi waliokuwa wameanza kupata. Kwa upande mwingine, Kalonzo na yamkini Karua wana wasiwasi wa kupoteza umaarufu wa kisiasa waliokuwa wameanza kujijengea kwa kukosoa serikali. This is well fleshed out for you on page 2. And of course, we shall look at the issue of the hardliners as well. And everyone are saying that they should keep off the dialogue right now and let it just be for the two gentlemen, Raila Odinga and President William Ruto, to talk. We're holding court with Nyikal. James Nyikal, Dr. James Nyikal is a member of Parliament for Seme. Also, we have with us Owen Bayo, who is the Deputy Majority Leader in the National Assembly, Farah Malim as well, member of a speakers panel, and also member of Parliament for Dadaab. Let's just begin with you. We'll circle back with you, James Nyikal, because I could see you're really getting antsy a bit when you hear what Honorable Bayo was really saying.
Yeah,
speaking truth to power.
Why I was feeling like that, you have a responsibility. I've said, however you get into a position of authority, to work for the benefit of the people. Now, whatever the circumstances, whatever the cause of those circumstances, what Honorable Bayo was saying is that the issue with subsidy, even on a short-term basis, is because they know the people who are causing problems who will benefit from the subsidy. And I must say, he went on to even insinuate that our party leader may be one of the beneficiaries. But I think we should avoid things like that now, because if we don't have evidence, it then reduces the discussion to personal level. We will put that aside. But if there are people that the government, as it is now, knows are the people who caused this, those people should be dealt with. But what is necessary for the people should be done. If the only reason you are refusing to use even a short-term measure to help the people is because you know the people who caused the problem are there, you must move with speed, deal with those people, but help the country. I mean, it is, let me use my profession. You can't tell a patient that I know who caused your disease. I'm not treating you. I'm still going to deal with that guy. Please deal with that guy, but treat the patient. Kenyans are suffering. If we can use a short-term measure, even if it is subsidy, but deal with the guys who you know, independent power producers, the people who didn't pay the subsidy for the oil, deal with them, but support the people. That is really what our dues are. I use this, sometimes I say, you can't tell people never keep chicken because in a village, because there's a thief in the village. Catch the thief and let the people keep chicken. The answer cannot be, as a village will never keep chicken and this thief is roaming around. And again, the story of the tracks of the lion. If you are looking for the lion and you have found the lion, deal with the lion. Don't keep saying we can see the tracks. The tracks are
the lion. We can see the lion.
I mean, we can't see the tracks. Deal with the lion. Don't come to the sand looking for the tracks, but you have seen the lion. Deal with the lion. So the crisis of food now is the lion. We deal with it. The people whom are responsible is number 2. That is medium and long term. Really, if this is the governance is going to be, that you actually so focus so much on the dealing or some kind of vengeance and leaving the people suffering, no. The people will be with you, help us.
Thank you.
Independent power producers, deal with them. They jail them. If it then turns out they were in these people that were in power, the world will now see. Again, the issue of the handshake has been an excuse for too long. 6 months after the event, it can't be everything is handshake. We'll do it for 5 years.
Just a moment, Farah. Yes. I want us just to put into perspective also the issue when you talk about handshake and hardliners. The hardliners also have been using the handshake. Let's just hear a story by Jeff, who actually did it, the hardliners, so that we can actually also juxtapose it with what Taifa Leo is holding for us as well. Jeff Kiroy. Do we have the story?
We're withdrawing the cases, but these are the people you should deal with. Withdrawing the cases against them.
Which is one of the to two unprecedented media addresses, one from President William Ruto and the other from Azimio leader Raila Odinga, less than 2 hours apart. The tone of the two events was that of truce that gave dialogue a chance, ending the mass protest led by Raila Odinga that was getting into the third week.
I urge my brother Raila Odinga and the opposition to call off the demonstrations and to give this bipartisan approach a chance for us to take the country forward.
We have met and listened to a diverse group of Kenyans, including religious leaders from all faiths, about the crisis facing our country today. They have implored us to give dialogue, especially during these holy periods of Easter and Ramadan.
According to insiders, the truce was brokered after the two leaders secretly flew Sunday morning for a meeting privately in a hotel in Masai Mara. Perhaps explaining why the two were missing in action until 4 p.m. in the evening, when they emerged seemingly with a concurrence.
I have carefully listened to the issues raised by my friend, the Honorable Raila Odinga. In times like this, it is not about who is right or who is wrong. Like Winston Churchill said, courage is what it takes to stand up and speak, but it is also what it takes to sit down and listen.
We will engage without any kind of coercion in whatever way.
Ordinarily, unless out of the country, President William Ruto rarely misses the limelight attending church service. However, Sunday morning, he was missing in action, only to appear in the evening calling for dialogue with Raila Odinga. Raila Odinga, on his part, was scheduled to attend church service at AIPC Ruiru, but did not turn up despite that his advance team and Azimio co-principals were present waiting for him. Scenarios pointing to the behind-the-scene engagements between the two leaders and key members of their inner circles. According to insiders in the two camps, the pressure was mounting on President William Ruto and Raila Odinga to dialogue. For President William Ruto, the pressure to protect lives and properties, coupled with economical losses occasioned by the demos, were mounting. Raila Odinga, on his part, battling an ingenious way out without getting under fire from his supporters, whose momentum to push the government to the wall was growing each passing day. On Sunday last week, several envoys from the Western countries met with Raila Odinga in a bid to have him call off the demonstrations. Days later, United States Senator Chris Coons and a number of clerics also met Raila to implore him to end the mass protests.
Viongozi wetu wa kanisa tunawapenda, wanatusukuma atutukue na mazungumzo na yeye, na tumesema haiwezekani.
According to sources within the government, talks began a week ago while the president was away in Germany through emissaries of two members of parliament, close allies of Raila Odinga and President William Ruto. And 3 days ago, the talks advanced with President Ruto and his close confidants that included a cabinet secretary who sits in the National Security Advisory Council, as well as emissaries of Raila Odinga holding a meeting Saturday till late. And Sunday morning, President Ruto and Raila Odinga physical meeting resolved the stand of ending the mass protests. The engagements leading to a win-win situation for the two camps that include a compromise for a bipartisan approach in the recruitment of the selection panel that will conduct interviews to pick new IEBC commissioners, as well as the fast-tracking of the institutionalization of the office of the official opposition leader that will fully be facilitated by the taxpayers. Jeff Kirui, KTN News.
For being hardliners.
Well, it seems the political interests also have political hardliners, because you're bound to lose as well. Faramalim.
Well, to begin with, first of all, let me just explain one thing that I said. The Borans, my ethnic cousins, are some of the wisest. They have a legal system and they have the best things that you can ever see. So that thing was actually Lenji Kunoti Fantime, which means this is the lion, but where are the tracks?
I liked it. I'll use it many times.
So, a number of things are factors of production here. Power is a factor of production. Water is a factor of production. Yes. Land is a factor of production. We cannot have food security if we don't utilize optimally the land in this country. We need to have a new land policy. There's no way where some people should be sitting on millions of acres of idle land. And you have too many people who cannot even get is it 6x3 place for them to be buried, except if they have to be buried in a common cemetery. Now having said that, you mentioned the fears or the lack of fears or whatever of the hardliners, so-called hardliners. In any what you call political setup, you have hawks and doves. You get my point. You have hawks and you have doves also, or doves, and it's normal for some of them to see. We say if your firstborn was died as a result of a snake bite, you'll always be scared about snakes all the time. You'll worry about the snake also killing the second born and the third born and the rest. So they've seen what happened in the Uhuru government and how what do you call a whole deputy president was sidelined for 5 good years and was just a silent observer somewhere out there, being humiliated every inch along the way. Every inch along the way, including being not allowed to go into a room where the president is in, but the president with other people, being stopped at the door. I don't know if you remember in Bomas one time. Yes. I mean, the worst that can ever happen to any person. But again, be that as it may, I mean, he has his moments now, and I'm happy that he doesn't look like one person who's looking for revenge. But the ones who are on the other side, who have stuck up with him and who suffered through all that, they do not want a situation that's going to upset their own designs and desires in their political life. These people have a manifesto, they have a plan. And the plan is that the Uhuru stays there, Ruto stays there for 10 years, and after the 10 years somebody else comes again, and progressively. I mean, it's normal for those kind of political plans and plots. So if they are fighting in one way or the other, I don't fault them. If they have hawks and doves, I mean, I don't fault them either. But I personally would want to see one thing achieved for Kenyans, not for the political contestants, not for the people who are out there in the field, basically trying to score goals against one another. Kenyans need systems that work so that we don't have to come back together again and have a handshake. We've already had a handshake, by the way. This one is some kind of a shake. Whether you want to call it a handshake or it's a handshake. I mean, you notice them greeting one another. I don't know why they greeted one another like this. Is it because of the fear of COVID, or the fact that they don't want to be told that they have had a handshake? You know what I mean?
They don't want to be going down on camera.
They don't want to be Christian as another handshake. You know what I mean? So, which is a smart move on the part of the president. I would congratulate him for that, because if he had had a handshake, if he had greeted him, people would have said this is another handshake. The headline today would have been handshake. You know what I mean? But then they came in there and they just said this.
But those were from the files.
Yeah.
From the files picture. Yeah.
Oh, that's an old thing. It's an old thing.
They've not met face to face. We don't know. We're not privy. They've been very cagey with the information. Yes.
Oh, okay. Interesting. Very interesting. Very, very interesting. But then again, they're never permanent enemies or permanent friends in politics. I personally remember one time when Ruto had gone out of his way and literally spent every coin of his and went to every corner of this country trying to get Raila to become the president. And for them to come together again is not that far-fetched. You know, it could happen. You remember him and Ruto putting on even the same shirts and the same ties and, you know, walking together. Walking together.
The bromas.
The bromance.
And how finally it ended again. It was such a powerful acrimony. And you know, dehumanizing in some cases. Actually, that's one of the reasons why Ruto, by the way, got a lot of sympathies, is the manner in which was treated by Ruto, by Uhuru. So my take on this is, this will come to Parliament. Yes. And in Parliament, we will insist, the three of us are in Parliament, yes. We'll insist on systems for Kenya. We will insist on what is good for Kenya. You want to bring down the cost of living, increase also first the expenditure in the factors of production, including land, by the way, including compulsory acquisition of the millions of acres and giving it to landless people who can be very good producers, so that we have a food security. In any case, it's idle. You get my point? Including, of course, having water everywhere, taming the independent power.
But we ought to be careful with that as well.
Listen.
We know what really happened in Zimbabwe.
Well, look,
Zimbabwe,
yes, there was a difference.
And the white Africans.
There was a difference in Zimbabwe, and I think Mugabe was a hero in the eyes of his people, and I still consider him to be a hero, because you don't fight out there in the bush for God knows how many years, and you come out there, you get independent, and you still control less than 20% of the arable land. You know, 23. What's the population of Zimbabwe? 60 or 70% of the arable land is controlled by 4,600 white settlers who are there. That is wrong, my friend. It is wrong. It should never happen anywhere, because then independence has no meaning. In our case, not only did it happen like that, in our case, we also had the black, what do you call, masters, who have taken over again, and the rest of the country as slaves. The black settlers. There's not a settler who had millions of acres. There are families that have millions of acres right now. I mean, a white settler. So you need to basically also make sense out of some of these things, because it doesn't make any sense. Any leader can come, grab all what you call public land, have millions of acres, and then another one comes and says so and so and so and so. And then eventually, what are you going to have? You're going to have a revolution. You know, this country will be 60 million. It will be 70. It will be 100 million for information. And I don't know how long it's going to take, because if it has taken only, how many years? 60 years. From less than 8 million at independence to 50 million today. To 50 million today. So
it was mine.
It is
I
not.
took part in that.
Yeah. It was actually less than 7 million something, and then it became about almost 8 million something again. So you can imagine how that growth has been there. It's never been tamed. And where are we going in another 30 years' time? Of course, me and him probably will not be around. And thank God if we are around, we will still.
We'll still be coming to the show.
We will need a lot of land.
No, you will come to us.
We'll be coming to where you are. Let's hear from Honorable Owen on this, even as we're winding up, because I want also to focus on the parliamentarians. Okay. There is a parliamentary pension amendment bill that has come to the fore that we want to discuss. Okay. It seems even when the economy is tanking, the parliamentarians are still thinking about the future. Farah is talking about 100 years from now. We'll be coming to him. He wants also to tweak this particular pension.
I want to say this on the issues of handshake, as Taifa Leo is reporting. I think we're very clear as Kenya Kwanza and as the president. And if you listen to the president's speech towards the end, I think some journalist asked him a question. He says, we do not want to take this country on the road of 2018. That the handshake regime, what the handshake regime did, killed opposition and all that. I think he says he's very clear. He's very clear. The president is very clear in the speech that he gave on Sunday, and even when we met him yesterday, there is no handshake. And he thinks a handshake is very bad for the country because it is what killed opposition. This friend of mine, Dr. Yikal, we used to sit very close in the 12th Parliament. And he was a very disturbed man when handshake came. He couldn't articulate issues the way he wants to articulate them because he feared. You know, he was caged. This is not a man who caged. Handshake caged him, and it caged many other people. The Parliament now, all laws that came into Parliament could not receive the discussion and the vibrancy in the you know, it killed part of the 12th Parliament completely. It became just a rubber stamp. Whatever Uhuru wanted, it was a rubber stamp. Even when we resisted, those of us who were in Kenya Kwanza, we resisted. And I remember they locked us up in the Parliament. You remember, was it the election laws?
They got you out of all the committees.
No, I was thrown out of the committees. But I remember during the election laws. Is it election laws?
Election laws.
Yes, the one on coalition building and all that. And we were there until midnight. And I think they had instruction that it must pass, and they locked the doors of Parliament. Nobody should leave until everything is there. You remember it was around Christmas time or New Year time.
Yeah. I remember, yeah.
That is how bad Parliament became because of a handshake. President William Ruto is very clear. Allow democratic institutions, and one of the most important democratic institutions in this country is the opposition. Yes, the minority. They must be there to check the excesses of government and bring accountability. And therefore, on that basis, there's no handshake. Unfortunately, yesterday, you know, I was after our meeting with the president. I came to Parliament, and I was walking on Parliament Road, and a lot of people stopped me and asked me, "Owen, what are you doing, you guys? You want to bring another handshake?" No, we don't want to. Many people actually came to me and said, "We saw you at State House. What were you discussing? Were you discussing a handshake?" We told them no. I said, "Tell the president we do not want a handshake. We do not want a handshake." And very many people, actually, the taxi operators, the people in the streets, the newspaper vendors, and everybody else that I met said they do not want a handshake. And I think that is the word in the street. Kenyans do not want a handshake because they know what the handshake did to this country. But again, the Azimio side, my fear, and I have read with a lot of concern the letter that Donald Kipkorir wrote. I don't know whether you've seen that letter, the open letter by Donald Kipkorir. And he says very interesting things. He said every time Raila Odinga has been given an opportunity to show leadership in this country, he has squandered it. That's what he says. Then he says he needs to remove certain people and bring in people like Sifuna, Ledama Olekina, and all that to the table. I think he makes a suggestion on that. And you can see from that letter, Donald Kipkorir is saying there are certain hardliners in Azimio, and there are those that have a different opinion, and that the Honorable Raila Odinga needs to be very careful so that he does not squander another opportunity. What he is saying, Donald Kipkorir, is that he is one of those hardliners and has identified fellow hardliners who are going to make the process very complicated. And he says, these are the people that we must put there on the table. Raila Odinga, as I know him, and I have worked with him from 2014 when I came back into this country from the US. I worked with Raila Odinga, and I know Raila Odinga. He's a reasonable man. That I can say. He's a reasonable man. He's a person that you can sit and tell him certain things, and he can say, yes, this is good. But also there's the Raila Odinga who can be pushed to the corner by some hardliners, and he takes positions that may not be very good. That is Raila Odinga. Raila Odinga actually is one person who will sit down and listen. You'll tell him. And characteristically, he will nod his head. He will keep, sometimes I think he even closes his eyes. And he keeps on nodding his head and listens to you in silence. He listens and say. But there are certain people in ODM and in Azimio who take advantage of the old man for personal reasons. And that is one of the reasons that they had issues in the run-up to 2022 elections. There's a clique of individuals led by one person who then was whip in 12th Parliament, who cornered this Mzee and ensured that whatever he says, they say is what Mzee will follow. And that is what tanked for them, because a clique of people cornered Raila Odinga and held him hostage. Raila Odinga, as a person, the way I know him, he's a reasonable man. He's a very reasonable man. But the people that associate with him, you can see, people like Martha Karua is a hardliner. People like Eldama Kila is a hardliner. People like Sifuna, they are hardliners. People like Junet, although he's even excluded himself, I read in the papers today, he doesn't want to be part of those are hardliners. But Opiyo Wandayi is not a hardliner. Opiyo Wandayi is a reasonable man. But sometimes he's pushed to the corner. Governor Anyang' Nyong'o is a reasonable man. But I wondered, he wrote that letter to say, you know, he doesn't want demonstrations. And I think certain people took this letter to Raila Odinga and showed him, say, you see what the governor said? And I think he was called and said, hey, my friend, you have to withdraw that letter. You know what he did? The next minute, he turned and said, no, I will allow demonstrations. Because he saw the threat to him by these hardliners. That is a problem that Azimio has. Azimio has. And even you could see on the day Raila Odinga was reading that statement, that he is conceding that we can have a discussion, this dialogue. You could see the other guys around him. Even if you put that picture there, you will see the faces of those people that would have wanted Mandamanos to continue. You know, if you look at that picture, in that video, there are certain people there who are very unhappy and were feeling like, what is this Mzee doing? Why is he doing this? You know, we are losing space for our political future. You look at the face of Kalonzo Musyoka, you look at the face of Martha Karua, you look at the faces of Professor Makau Mutua, those people. You know, you could actually see that these people were feeling very offended by what Raila was actually saying. But I think Raila was saying it from the depth of his heart, that yes, it is time to give dialogue a chance. But there are certain people within Azimio who would have wanted that Monday they go to the streets, that on Thursday they go to the... In fact, this thing, the last line where he says that, you know, we are holding it until Thursday, that was not Raila's statement. That was other people's statement, that they want to still hold on, you know, let's push Ruto out. There's certain... But Raila Odinga, when you sit with him on the table on a one-on-one, he's an agreeable man, a reasonable man.
Let's hear from Nikal. Nikal, where were you that day? We didn't see you actually on that particular...
On that day,
yeah.
I was on my way from Kisumu.
Okay.
At that particular moment. But you see...
Were you surprised that there was an announcement?
Well, the timing of it, but I knew sooner or later there was going to be some form of agreement, because the country, I didn't see the country going up in flames because leaders totally refused to agree. There was a lot of, from the, as you said, from foreign countries, from the churches within the country, with business people.
African Union.
You know, African Union. You hold and run a country for the benefit of the people, not yourself. When they are suffering in pursuit of a good thing, you must know it is like giving medicine. Medicine is bitter, surgery may be painful, but eventually you must know, if I now do this surgery, we may lose the patient. So I think we were there. But let me say about hardliners. Honorable Bayer, the only thing is, the one thing you have acknowledged, that actually Raila means well. Right Honorable Raila means well most of the time. Most people we have worked with like you, and eventually when they leave him, they grow. You know, you have grown since you left him. So, when he used to...
They use Raila as a launching pad.
Along the path.
He's a launching pad, you know, for the political career.
Exactly.
All of them.
It's true. When he used
even Farah himself.
He used to sit in front of me, and that time he was with us. Then he started going. You see, now he has a better office than mine. He has a better position. You see, you saw him in State House.
Yeah.
So, and he says Raila is an honorable man. At least he has thanked him. But the truth is, that is him, and he means well. But he lives in a country where people don't mean well, and he keeps saying the truth. And then people keep saying, he's always saying this, is always this. Because when you stick to the truth, many times you are at odds with everybody. But let's stick to the issue of hardliners. And Honorable Bayer, you did very well to count the hardliners on our part and the reasonable guys. The only thing you didn't do, you didn't count the hardliners on your side and the reasonable guys on your side. That is where your argument now.
That's for you to do. Yeah. That's not for him to do. So he's giving you a chance to do it.
No, when you are on this, we must look balanced all the time.
But you need to counterbalance. If he mentions, you also need to mention from your end.
I'll rebut. No, I'm not normally pleased like that. I'll rebut I'll rebut. Hardliners are in everything. Whether it is a football match, whether it is a debate, in everything, they're hardliners. And then they're the leaders. And then they're the moderates. The leaders eventually take time. And there are many, many times when the crunches come, you find that the leaders go alone. Because now they're going to make the decision. And many times when the hardliners are left out, you know, things, the leaders then agree. So I won't worry about the hardliner. Look at my friend Ichungwa. It's somebody I've respected. But now he's suddenly become a real hardliner. The DP himself. I mean, he doesn't make me feel like, can this guy step in the shoes of the other? No. When he has said, I'm not a shareholder, when I see him now sitting in the chairman's seat, I say, now I'm finished, kabisa. This guy said, I don't even belong there. Now he's holding, now me, I must just run away. So those hardliners, on your side, there are those hardliners. Even Honorable Ndindi Nyoro, he sometimes, it's done well with the technical aspect of the budget. It's done well. But when you come to this now talking, whether as Honorable Malim said, people are talking to protect their future, but those are expected. And in any negotiation, in any negotiations of this nature, hardliners are also useful, because if you're in a negotiation, the hardliners kind of remember where we are coming from. Remember where you are coming from, so that you don't lose. But I don't think they're the people that are going to make the decision. They'll bring the hardline positions, the other will bring the hardline positions, then the moderates are normally would bring what people would want, but the leaders would eventually take the lead. So I believe, I don't want to, you are sounding like you want the people that our side should put in the panel. I'll not go that direction. No, it is absolutely up to us. Now on your side, it is absolutely up to you. If you bring the hardliners, the thing is dead, and you are on the street again, and you are seeing me and wondering why I'm there, and I'm a reasonable person. So we must avoid those, so that we come. So the hardliners is part and parcel of any structure. But the moderates also are there. But the leaders eventually take the line. I liked it when he was saying that when the leaders are talking, you can see a difference. Do you think the face of your DP was looking good when your leader was talking?
Yeah, it was smiling.
We can also put that picture there and see how your face of your DP was looking. So
you want to say something before we go to yes.
Yeah. So, but I said, forget about the hardliners. They are there in every situation, but leaders will take the lead, and the panels, the leaders will have a very critical decision in picking the panel.
Thank
you. What I wanted to say,
briefly, so that we can actually.
When I like the way he ended. When the leaders eventually emerge and take a certain position. I believe when President William Ruto has spoken, Kenya Kwanza has spoken, and everybody toes the line on this matter. And Kenyans should not fear about hardliners and all that. And I want to tell Azimio people that as you come to this negotiation, we don't have hardliners. The leader has spoken. Not just the leader of Kenya Kwanza, but the leader of this nation has spoken. And I said, this is the path we must go. And everybody else will follow that path. A path of dialogue, sincere dialogue, a path of a sincere bipartisan approach, a path of bringing the country together. And that's what everybody else within the Kenya Kwanza and the leadership that we have in Kenya Kwanza will pursue. On the other side, I know what, I saw something on Facebook today where somebody says, no, Martha Karua should be the person leading the negotiation, the bipartisan approach. I even said, but Martha Karua is not even a member of Parliament. No. But you see why they are picking that one? Because they are saying this is the hardliner who should push. But us as Kenya Kwanza, we are saying, you heard what Ichungwa said yesterday when he addressed the media yesterday. I think he has mellowed down and has said, we are open to dialogue. And with this going to be a sincere and open and very nationalistic dialogue. And that is what we are looking towards too. And everybody else in our side has accepted this, and we're going to work. The Deputy President of this Republic of Kenya is very clear. Dialogue must be given a chance. Honorable Gachagua, our Deputy President, we had a discussion with him. He said, the President has said we must pursue a bipartisan approach, and that is what the Honorable Rigathi Gachagua will do, and will give dialogue a chance. And we are not coming into this with any hardline position. We are open to bring the country together.
So are we likely to see any dialing back also on some of the rhetorics that we've been seeing every Sunday in churches? Because they've been taking advantage of the podium to throw barbs at Baba.
No, right now,
to call names. So moving forward, are we likely to see a very sober, a very, engaged church service? I think it was one of us, I think it was Dikalo was saying in that service, no, it was Honorable Kipruto Arap Kiru was saying, in that service, you'll find the name of Jesus not mentioned more than the name of Raila. It is Raila than the name of Jesus himself.
I think after the president has spoken, and you saw, if you look at those two pictures, Debal, look at the mood of the president when he gave the olive branch. He was in a jovial, it was a happy, it was a nice Sunday when he gave that you see, that undertaking that, he did it from the bottom of his heart. And I also want to make it very clear, President Ruto was not coerced into taking that position. Neither was he pushed by international community to take that position. He told us he sat over the matter, slept over the matter, and thought and said, as a leader for this country, I want to give dialogue a chance. So when he came out to address the nation, he came out as William Ruto, he came out as president, he actually came out as very presidential as he addressed the nation.
But if you look at like what we have on the Star as well, the issue of ICC.
No. These are just interesting headlines. This is just interesting headlines. But I can tell you for a fact. President William Ruto said yesterday nobody has pushed him to take that position, and he had a discussion with his deputy, and they agreed this is the way they need. After having listened to all those things, he sat down as the president, the person where the buck stops, and he said, I need to take leadership. And he never called Raila Odinga. He has never spoken to him. People thought that, he has spoken to Raila Odinga, they have met, they have had a chat. No.
Don't be sure on other people's behalf.
No. I believe my president when he says, I have not met Raila Odinga.
Okay, fine.
Okay?
He told you
so.
That's all right.
He came out as a president, as a leader of the country that wanted this country to be at peace, and he made that decision. And he came out as a very sincere, jovial person.
Let me finally,
before you go to that, but I also want you to look at the picture on the other side, and those people that are addressing the nation after President Ruto said, you can see those people are almost mourning like someone has died, like they are being pushed, like Raila Odinga. I know Raila Odinga when he folds here, that he's being pushed and he doesn't like it.
You are a good student. You have benefited.
I know him very well. He said in my constituency, this Owen Baya has grown because he's my political student. I agree.
You agree?
I agree.
That's okay.
But I also know when Raila Odinga makes a decision, from his heart, and I know when he has a decision in his heart he wants to make, and there are people that are pushing him to do something else, he gets into that position. And you can see that decision, had it been left to other people, Raila Odinga would not have made that speech. But I believe that was the decision of Raila Odinga, that let me call off the protests. But the other hardliners around him, I'm sure they still would say, why did this old man do this?
So let's come to the deputy leader of Wiper, because Kalonzo Musyoka also smack dab in the middle of these demonstrations. And as we're looking at it, he's also been picked as one of the people who are now fear handshake. Yes. He might be a loser on this as well. From your own position, because we've been discussing, as he was banishing himself also through this particular protest, a revival of, Kalonzo. Many people are waiting for the big declaration that, Raila will have made. What are you reading yourself?
Well,
Deputy Party Leader?
What I know about the person is that, one, he's a peacemaker himself. This man has been involved in many peace efforts in the continent. Somalia, the South Sudan peace talks, the latest even DRC Congo, and all the time when he was in these demonstrations, he insisted on non-violence and the sanctity of private property. He told them, don't destroy property. That's basically has been his position. To the extent he would be the most serious, what do you call, candidate in 2027, I mean, it's a presumption many people have that he will be the candidate. And of course, another set of another set also says that no, it's going to be Raila. Is going to go for the. Is it the seventh time? Is it the sixth time?
Sixth.
The sixth time. Let me correct you one thing. Me and Raila made our debut into Parliament at the same time. I actually made my maiden speech before him, so he's my junior in a sense. You know what I mean. So we both we were elected in 1992, and I was a shadow minister for energy. At that time, a very daunting task. And he was the deputy director of elections. He was not even in the shadow cabinet because the late Jaramogi was there as the leader of the opposition that time. And you know, we were there. We understudied him. And that's it. We've never been, and then we served together as I was a deputy speaker when he was a prime minister. And we were controlling one arm of the government. He was in, you know, more or less in a joint control of the other one with Kibaki. I know him. He's not a bad man. Raila has the best of intentions. But one time, I remember, I would not mention his name, one of his very close confidants now in the Luo Union, in the Luo community, told me, Farah, when you talk to Raila, you better know who you're talking to. You could be talking to Rao, you could be talking to Agwambo, you could also be talking to Odinga. He's 3 in 1, so you never know. So if he tells you no, which one you're talking to? Is it Raila who has told you no, or is it Agwambo who has told you so? The very nickname of Agwambo, he will tell you, is mysterious. Mysterious. So I don't want to discuss the character of any human being, but on this one, I think all those demonstrations were too much ado about nothing. Too much ado about very little. Because the only thing that it will come down to is IEBC, and IEBC will come down to that one slot.
Yes, only one slot.
Only one slot. And that is easy. We could come together and say, let's increase that to 2 slots, one for the opposition, one for the government side. And like I told you, we have already had an opportunity when we nominated everybody from the government side, from our side, and still complained that the same people we took there are the ones who stabbed us in the back, because we said that they were paid. The same thing with the Supreme Court, you know what I mean? The Supreme Court is there. And you ask Kenyans, you ask Azimio people, they tell you that they were bribed. You get my point? They were given tons and tons of money. And in this constitution of the Supreme Court, we had a very big role ourselves. Very, very big role, the first time. We were more or less the centerpiece of that. We brought in William Tunga, in a sense. We brought in people who are from the activism side, people who are in the reform bandwagon, are the ones we brought in there. And of course, again, we still complain that the 2013 decision was not determined in our favor for us to go back again on nullification again, because then people will tell you still the same things. So yes, that's why I'm telling you.
It was not determined in your favor because you had all this evidence that also came in a bit late.
Yes.
And it was not admissible. And this time also we have a witness who's coming in a bit late.
Absolutely.
So we seem also not to be learning from your past mistakes. I agree with you,
but one of the mistakes we made was that when we lost that because we did not have the evidence on time and the time was so short, why didn't we push for an extension of that time instead of 14 days to...
And it still came with a truckload of evidence.
4 weeks, yeah. And we still came with truckloads of evidence, but again, relevance was, in my opinion, in a sense, we did what we could have done. And as a legal mind also myself, I think we had our own serious mistakes. And then, of course, we've been complaining from the beginning that we're being rigged and we didn't have agents. We didn't have agents.
Thank you, Farah.
And you don't have agents in 2007. You don't have agents in 2013. You don't have agents in 2017. Again, you still don't have agents in 2022. Why? Do you seriously want to become a president? Do we seriously want to take the presidency? Or it's other considerations? Because it costs money. The agents of Azimio, the agents of ODM, the agents of CORD, the agents of what do you call the NASA, everywhere, every time we didn't have agents.
Thank you.
And these guys had agents every small polling station.
We need to wind up now.
Yeah.
We need to wind up. Let me just begin with you, Honorable Bayer,
Yes.
by giving you headline thoughts moving forward.
Yeah.
We're looking, of course, to the formation of this bipartisan ad hoc committee.
Yes.
And how it will pan out. What are your expectations?
My expectations is that the ad hoc committee that Parliament will form will bring in reasonable people that will look at Kenya and the nation, and that the aim is to bring the country together and cure this malaise that we have had for a long time. As from the Kenya Kwanza coalition, we are looking forward to a more inclusive process. The President is very clear that we need to call our members of Parliament to PG, that we will sit down and look at these other things and probably agree on who sits on the committee. We also want to involve our party and the party structures to rope them in so that they understand what we are getting into. And then at the end of the day, bring this matter to Parliament, and our members of Parliament will have been properly briefed so that it's an all-inclusive affair. Not like the handshake where only two people met, they agreed and started rolling out things without having to involve everybody else. So as Kenya Kwanza and as government, we are going to be very all-inclusive and to ensure that everybody is briefed and informed, and the decisions that will be made because the people in government, the people of the party, and the nation at large is informed about what is going on.
Thank you very much.
Mine is that the leaders have given us this country, given us the other leaders and this country a chance so that we can get a way forward out of the situation where we are. Give that a chance. Let the panels be inclusive, and I trust the leaders will get the right people who can do that. Obviously, it will probably be finalized in Parliament. We must accept that there will be a lot of consultations outside Parliament that must then come into Parliament. If you give that a chance, I think it will work. Let us not be incapacitated by fear of the past. This unreasonable fear of our Right Honorable Raila Odinga and being stuck on the history of the handshake. The past informs the present, but let's deal with the present to go to the future and leave the past behind. Let's start from here. That is my position. And fears that are not founded, excuses that are on the past should be let to stay.
Thank you. Indeed. Faramali,
I
briefly.
think, well, at the end of the day, Parliament will be in control. And we all members of Parliament.
Speaking as a speaker.
Yes. Parliament will be in control. And we will do what's best for this country. But personally, the way I see it myself, more than anything else, is that we just need an election that is going to be so free and so fair that nobody can complain that he or she has been robbed of victory. And the only way to do that is to invest in technology and not to, we don't have to reinvent the wheel. Look at the way it's been done in the US. Look at the way it's been done in a country like India, with 1.3 billion population. And I don't know how many 100 million people are voting. And everybody watches the screen, and at the end of the day, they know what they got. So the technology is available. The technology is available. You don't have to depend on the human error, because human error will always be there. We've lived with human error. We bring in commissioners there, and then we claim that they have been bribed. You know what I mean? And robbed from us, and they gave the victory to the other side. I mean, this has not been once or twice or three times. It's been a whole, 3 decades now. So the best thing for us is let us invest in a foolproof system that is going to make sure the winner is the winner and the loser is the loser, and they both can take it with grace.
Thank you. Farah Malim, Member of Parliament, Dedap, thank you for coming through this morning. Also, a member of our speaker panel, we thank you for your contribution this morning. Owen Baya, we really appreciate. Deputy Majority Leader in the National Assembly, we thank you also. And also Member of Parliament, Kilifi North, we want to thank you also. Dr. James Nyikal, Member of Parliament, for Seme. Thank you. So, also a committee member of the Health Committee in the National Assembly. Thank you for your contribution this morning. And of course, this is for the betterment of his country. This is where now, hardliners will really need to toe the line and come with a happy medium so that we can actually see peace restored, IBC also being shaken into place, and we have a peaceful country moving forward. Thank you so much for your contribution. Really do appreciate it. Thank you for your valued company. You've been watching Siasa Fiesta.